So why is it so important to check for slab leaks before you buy or sell a house?
Another one sold.
So a few days ago, I noticed something odd. My water heater was continually running, right? And it wouldn't shut off. It was continually boiling. I got home at 11 o'clock and it was going. Got up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. It was still going. And at 7 a.m. it was still going. And I'm like, holy smokes, what is going on? And obviously the first thing that come to my mind is there's water leaking somewhere from the hot water heater. It wasn't inside the house though, because we saw no signs of any leaks inside the house. But there's an easy way to tell if you have a leak in your house, even though it's not visible. And I'm going to share with you that in just a moment. But I started the investigation process, and I started looking to see if there was this leak. And sure enough, you can see right here on the screen, we've got us a slab leak. Now, good news is it's right on the edge of the slab. It's not deep in the slab or in the middle of the house somewhere where flooring needs to be ripped up, but still really, really big pain in the butt. So how did I find that leak? Well, it's actually pretty simple. If you go out to your meter, and our meters look like this, if you go out to the meter and you look at the dials, you might have to flip the top open, you'll see that little red triangle, and that little red triangle just spins. If it's spinning, that's a low flow indicator, meaning that there's still water going through there, but it's not enough to make the dials turn with the numbers on them, but it's saying that there's water. So what we did was I shut off everything, including the toilet valves. I shut off all the faucets, made sure everything was off. The dishwasher wasn't going to kick on. I shut off the valve to the water heater as well, and went back out there. Sure enough, it was still going. Now, it was tricky because it was an indicator. When the water heater valve is shut off, if it was just a hot water leak, it should have stopped, right? But it didn't stop. So that's an indicator that it's a cold water leak. On the other hand, when I turned the valve on, the leak obviously continued. Well, in the process, I noticed out by our back wall, where you see this picture of the wall that we had to cut open the stucco to find this leak. And we did find it, and it's a cold water and a hot water leak. So who knows how long those have been going on. And it could have been for a little while. The cold water is a really, really slow leak, but the hot water is a little bit more aggressive. So anyways, but why is this important to do this before you buy or sell a house? Well, obviously, plumbing is one of the most expensive repairs that you can make if you have problems with them, and you don't want to find out about them later on down the road if you're a buyer. And as a seller, you don't want somebody coming back at you and saying, hey, you knew about this and you didn't tell us about it. And so it's better to do the tests necessary to find the problems before you buy or sell. Not only that, not only is it the most expensive repair, but it also causes the most damage. When there is a water problem, typically you hear most insurance claims are, water related. Water you hear about all the time. Oh, a pipe burst and now the whole downstairs is ruined or whatever. And so plumbing is a big deal. Okay, so that's how you find out if you have a plumbing leak in your house. Now, the other thing that you can do is if you have a good home inspector, and I always suggest to every home buyer and every home seller, before you buy or even before you sell, and this is something that is kind of foreign to a lot of people, pay for that home inspection, because the home inspector should do something very similar to that, to look at it and say, okay, well, there's water running somewhere. What is the problem? Now, they're not going to dive deep and cut holes in walls, but they can at least indicate that, gee, there's probably a little bit of a problem here that needs to be addressed or needs further research, which then at that point in time you can call a plumbing specialist to come out and find that leak. But the other thing that you can do is you can do what's called a hydrostatic test. And this is something that I just learned about myself. The hydrostatic test is basically when they tie into the plumbing system with everything turned off, and they pump pressure into the plumbing system, and they have a gauge that reads the meter, and when they look at that meter, it goes to a certain point, of pressure, and then they'll let it sit for 15 minutes. They'll come back. If that gauge is still at the same place in 15 minutes, well, your plumbing's good. If the pressure has gone down, well, now you've got a leak somewhere. And if it's under the slab, that's a hard thing to find. And they use typically audio and a couple other techniques I've seen that they use to find those leaks. In the end, well, it looks like we're going to end up having to repipe our entire house. And, you know, that's not a cheap process, but our house was built in 1964, so I think we got all the use out of the plumbing that we could. So it's time. So anyways, I hope you found this helpful, and make sure before you buy, and yes, before you sell, have a full inspection done in your house to address all those issues. One little tip I'll say about the sellers: if you end up doing an inspection and you find a leak, it now becomes a disclosure item, right? So this is why sometimes sellers don't do inspections, because they go, well, if I don't know about it, I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to disclose it. But in reality, in my experience, I've seen more people come back and try to make a claim against sellers because of that little thing that they probably should have known about at some point in time. Gee, didn't you notice your water bill was high? Something like that. So anyways, just be aware of that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about real estate any day of the week. That's what I do. All right, take care. Have a good day.
Another one sold.